Hello, online English C1000 class. It's good to talk to you again. This is week 4. This will be an overview of module 4. So I'm just going to get right to it. What you should be looking at now is the modules page. Um, I'm going to get it into student view so I can try the different links and make sure if anything works. I hope it does. And so this is the student view. So you have the first 4 weeks. Close up some of the earlier ones. So this was week 3. So make sure you finish anything in week through 3 that you haven't done yet, that you look at all over and learn all the web pages and everything like the MLA practice template and the block quote and so on. Do the sentence structure practice if you haven't done that yet. But now we're in week 4, module 4. And so that's the last one that you can look at, and that's open for this week. And so I'm going to go over it with you. So clicking on the first page of it, this is just a list of the tasks for week 4. If you're not caught up in analysis papers number 1 and number 2, try to do that. Try to submit them as soon as you can. We're going to preview an essay number 2, the second essay assignment. That assignment is in this module 4. If you have not yet revised your draft of essay number 1, try to do that as soon as you can. And of course, if you haven't submitted the first draft of essay number 1, try to do that as soon as you can as well. Like I said, if you didn't do the sentence structure practice, it's in module 3. Try to do that. There'll be a new DLA this week, DLA number 3, called Coherence. And there's a practice on finding research sources, and that's related to exploring the RCC library website and especially the databases, and actually especially Academic Search Complete. So I'm going to go ahead to the next page. This is the draft assignment for essay number 2. It says the due date is the September 26th. So I think that's toward the end of next week. So yeah, and again, that's just a guideline. Try to get it done then. But yeah, so you don't get too far behind or anything. But this is different from essay number 1 in that you get a separate credit for the draft, only worth 10 points, but if you submit the draft, pretty surely you'll get all the credit for it. And then on the draft, I'll give you feedback and comments and advice. And then you submit the second draft, the final draft, but that will be to a different assignment box that will be in a later module. So this is for essay number 2 draft. And I don't know, I think this could still be helpful from a previous class, this short video, saying a lot of the stuff I'm saying now, most likely. So you submit the draft here to this assignment. It'll be checked and marked. Then you'll revise it and submit the final draft to another assignment box in a later module. This is English 1A. I got to change that, huh? This is English C1000. We're at RCC and it's fall 2025. This is assignment number 2. comparing and contrasting arguments. If you click on this link from the Excelsior Owl online writing workshop, it just gives a little brief discussion of comparison contrast writing. There are other websites or other links from colleges that go into it more. So maybe I'll add another one, but just the idea is comparing and contrasting. You try to put your different subjects together and show their similarities and differences. And so that's what this little link is about. So look that over. The basic assignment is to write an essay that compares and contrasts the two readings from SIR's issues researcher on the subject that you will be writing your research essay about and that you wrote your first two analysis papers on. So again, that's why it's important that you have the analysis papers done so that you can go on to the next steps. You should combine and synthesize the analysis papers into essay number 2 by contrasting and evaluating both essays. You need to explain the arguments of both authors, but you also need to support your own position on the issue by showing agreement with one author more than the other. You must document your essay in correct MLA form by using correct in-text citations and having a correct works cited list. So that should not be difficult at all, but it's good practice. You only have two sources, the two articles you're writing about, and you already have like the listings for them probably, but try to make sure they're correct. I will be talking about how to get the correct works cited listing maybe a bit today, but you can ask me, and there's a lot of information about it. Okay, so these are the readings that you'll be writing about. So of course, if you're writing about fake news, you'll be writing about these two articles. If you're writing about abortion, you'll be writing about these two articles. If you're writing about drug policy, you'll be writing about those two articles. If you're writing about immigration, you'll be writing about these two articles. If you're writing about college education, you'll be writing about these two articles. The requirements, the essay needs to be at least 4 to 5 pages. Actually, it shouldn't be more than 5 pages, but it should not be less than 4. So if it's less than 4, it's not long enough. Typed in the MLA form, refer back to module 1 for the format if you don't have it very good. And you can know whether you have it very well or not by looking at the comments I mark on your papers. If I tell you to review the format, then you should. Your main goal in essay number 2 will be to analyze and generally refute the points from the author that you most disagree with while using the one that you agree with to support your position. For C, you're supposed to stay focused on both the specific issues that the essays address and on the main issue in general. The main issue being abortion or drug laws and so on. Try to be fair and balanced. That means treat the article that you disagree with the same fairness that you treat the article that you do agree with. Be balanced. Try to devote the same amount of your essay to both the articles so that you seem fair and balanced. Some more this is just a general thing. When you submit your draft, you should also paste a copy of it on the essay number 2 discussion board. That doesn't exist yet, but it will be in the later module next week or the week after. For essay number 2, the essay will be graded on these criteria: clear, accurate presentation of the issues, a definite thesis statement that asserts your agreement with one writer over the other. That should be at the end of your introduction. well-developed paragraphs with clear topic sentences, clear, accurate, and fair summary and analysis of both writers, logical reasons for refuting opposing points and supporting your own. So I hope it's clear. You analyze and compare and contrast both readings, but you also have your thesis that you use the readings to support. Again, you might watch this video. It might say something I didn't just say or not. But do the best you can with it and get started on it when you can. It's not a big rush, but I want you to be aware of the next step. The next item is DLA number 3. Let me talk about the Writing Center just a bit before going into this. It says have this checked in the WRC before submitting it. Record the name of the person you spoke with, the date, and the time. So I know that for the first 3 weeks of the class, the Writing Center has been very busy, unable to get to everyone that needs it. So for DLAs number 1 and number 2, I turn to the policy of giving you credit for them if you submit them at all. And if I will check them myself, and if they're good, I'll give you full credit, or give you less than full credit, but a chance to redo them. But so if you haven't done DLA number 1 and number 2, try to submit them and don't worry about the Writing Center for them. But for the future DLAs, I expect the Writing Center to get more manageable. So we'll say for DLA number 3 that you do have to have it checked in the Writing Center. What DLA number 3 is, and again, there's this video that I hope will help explain it, but I'm going to try to explain it right now without playing the video at this point. So the idea of this is pretty simple. It's there's no other sources you have to look at. You just have to read this entire DLA. So it says read the following information and then complete the exercises that follow it. The information is called Organizational Patterns in Academic Writing. And so this talks about organizational patterns. You could also say like structures or orders, that kind of thing. It just means different ways or patterns that information can be set up to make it clear. And that goes back to this. I'm sorry. Yeah, the title of this DLA is coherence. And coherence means having your writing make sense. And the way that writing usually makes sense is that it does have some kind of organization. So it has an order or an organizational pattern that it generally follows. And generally, the better it follows it, the more it's helpful. And so this first part of this is about how to identify organizational patterns. And it says that there can be signal words showing what pattern it is, the definition of that. So there's a whole lot of organizational patterns, and for each one of them, it talks about the purpose and signal words. So the first one listed is classification. The purpose of classification is to divide a topic into parts based on shared characteristics. So it means to classify ideas or subjects or topics or parts of a topic. Signal words could be comprises, is composed of, several varieties of, different stages of, different groups that, first, second, third, words like that. And so that's just the first one. Chronological order, process, order of importance, spatial order, cause and effect, comparison, contrast. So that's what, like essay number 2, comparison, contrast. Listing, statement and clarification, summary, generalization and example, addition. So all of these are different organizational patterns. They could be grouped differently or defined differently or combined in some ways. But for our purposes, these are what they are. Then, in relation to what you're supposed to do is read all the rest of it as well. And then where it says practice exercises, it says read the following thesis statements, choose one of the patterns of organization from the options below that follow the sentences that best describe the pattern the author will follow. So these are, you imagine these are topic sentences, like the first sentences in paragraphs. And then these are the listings. I guess this should be A before comparison. I didn't know that was missing. But A, B, C, uh, letters for the different organizational patterns or orders that they could be put in. And some of them are easier than others. And so I'm going to show you one to start. It says arachnophobia is an intense, unreasonable fear of high places. For my example, my sister is unable to go above the third floor of any building. So you look at this and you read these things. That definitely seems to be a definition of acrophobia, an example of the writer's sister. So what you would do is you would put C on this blank. And the way to do it then is what I'm doing right now. Look for the ones that seem easiest and do them. And then when you get to the process of elimination, down to the ones that you're not too sure of, and you'll generally get the right order. There's an answer key to this that the Writing Center will have, but I don't think it's actually, you could argue that some of them could be different ones after you go through the most obvious one. Another example of an obvious one, just as we relate to others based on personality traits, we tend to interact with our own personal computers based on their performance. So what's it doing? It's comparing relating with other people with how we react with the computer. And so what is it? That would be a comparison. So even though I don't have the A there, that would be the A that goes on that line. So the idea would just keep working through this list till you've done it and then go on to the next part. The next part is absurdly easy. I'm not going to talk about it too much. Maybe I do on the video a little bit. But if you get them wrong, you're not really thinking it through. And you'll see that when you start doing it. So like I said, it's real easy. All you have to do is fill in the blanks in these paragraphs with these words here, and then say what kind of organizational pattern is. That takes a little thought, but it's not too much. And then do all 3 of them, and that's it. And then, as I said, have it checked in the Writing Center. If you have problems having it checked in the Writing Center, explain, submit it anyway, explain the problems in the comment box, and there's a good chance I will check it myself. But like I said, I'm hoping the Writing Center gets easier. I don't think you should have to spend more than half an hour waiting, either in the physical Writing Center or online. So, I mean, you can, but it's there's a point where it gets beyond expectations. So if you spend a long time waiting, you don't get through, and you're telling me the truth, go ahead and submit it anyway. Otherwise, get it checked first. Okay. This is just a little practice on wordiness. This is just a page in a page in the module. It's not an assignment in the sense that you don't submit anything to it, but for your own good as a writer, I would like you to try to do it. And the idea of it is to find and correct wordy expressions in the following passage. So this is 3 paragraphs about this person, Dr. Alice Hamilton, and you'll see who she was. But throughout these paragraphs, there are a lot of wordy constructions, uh, points that could be said in many fewer words, are redundancies, things that are said twice when they could be said just once. So the idea of it is to go through this practice and try to eliminate or condense, or change wordy expressions so that it's more focused. To start with the very beginning, I will just do one with you. And it starts with, at the age of 40 years old, Dr. Alice Hamilton. Uh, that's a redundancy, right? You could say at the age of 40, or you could say at 40 years old. But if you have at the age of 40 years old, you're over emphasizing what's a simple point, and so it's redundant. So you would just choose one or the other. At the age of 40, Dr. Alice Hamilton became a pioneer, or at 40 years old, Dr. Alice Hamilton became a pioneer, etc. And so just go through it like that. If I have a chance, and remember, I'll attach a video here that goes through the whole practice so that you can follow it. But it is good practice because some of you do have a little bit of wordiness in your writing, unnecessary uh, words and expressions, redundant ideas, and so on. So try to do this and do the best you can with it. This is just a review of the MLA practice template. I hope this link works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And this time it looks like it is. Yeah, so this is the MLA version of the first part of it, where you can see the core elements. And this is so, like, if you're setting up a works cited list, a source will have an author, that'll be first with a period, it'll have a title, that'll be second with a period. Then often it will be in a container, and that container will have a title, like the title of a magazine, a title of a newspaper, a title of a journal, etc. There also may be other contributors, like editors or translators or illustrators, etc. There might be a version number, like a first edition, an edition version, or revised version. There might be a number like volume 7, issue 6. There might be a publisher, like in a book, like St. Martin's Press. There might be a publication date for a book, the date of publication, for an article, the date that it appeared in the journal or the newspaper, etc. And it might have a location. The location is generally page number, so it's not like a geographical location, it's a location within the source. So if it's an article in a certain journal, the location would be the page numbers that article's on. So this is good to know. I hope. I think it is. And because you're going to be getting into, doing more research and listing your sources. This is my version of it where it doesn't have the commas and the periods as big, but it does show if you might have more than one container. Not usually more than two that I know of, but often online sources have more than one container. Like the articles from SIRS Issues Researcher, if you list them correctly, they will have the author and the title. In some cases, they don't have an author, like the article from the Philadelphia Inquirer doesn't, but it does have a title. Every source should have a title, does have a title, even if you make it up yourself, like you went to a speech or something, and you don't have a title, but you make it yourself. Um, and the reason that the title or the author and or the title in the works cited list have to match with how they're referenced in text citations throughout the essay itself. Anyway, I'm getting too deep, but so you have an author title, you have a container. Like I said, with the SIRS Issues Researcher, the container would be like the newspaper or journal that the article was first printed in. Then the second container would be the SIRS Issues Researcher, in other words, the database that that you found it on. And so therefore, there's not usually too many parts to container number two, but you never know. I've redone, or I moved the research assignment from whatever module was in before to this one. I'll keep moving it throughout the class. So the idea is to stay focused on the overall research paper assignment. And for this version of it, I just want to show you a couple things. So there are these deadlines. So we're already past week 3. So you have your preliminary topics and they're confirmed. They're confirmed in that you wrote analysis papers number 1 and number 2 about the topic, and that you're going to write essay number 2 in comparison contrast of those two papers staying on the topic. So that means all the other work throughout the class is going to be about that same topic. So that's confirmed. But for the next deadline is coming up in about 3 weeks, week 7. And at that point, you're supposed to have a preliminary bibliography and a preliminary thesis statement on the specific question that you choose. So that means a list of sources and a preliminary thesis statement. As the week, and these deadlines, uh, deadline number 1, deadline number 2, deadline number 3, they're worth points. So in other words, uh, 10 points each for them, and then for the draft, 20 points. And at the end of the class, week 14, the research paper is due itself, and that's worth 150 points. So if you add these up, it's all worth 200 points, and so that's like by far the biggest uh, assignment for the class, and in many ways, the organizational principle of the class is that you do this research. Okay, and then but so that's one thing. I want you to be aware that in 3 weeks the research will be serious. You're supposed to have a preliminary bibliography and a preliminary thesis statement. Also, I want you to see that in these broad areas, fake news, abortion, drug policy, undocumented immigration, and college education, I want you to focus on a specific topic or specific subject. Like under fake news, you could evaluate and explain a specific social media site. You could explain and discuss the relationships between politics and social media. These are all really about social media, but that's basically no clear line between social media and fake news. What are the benefits of the dangers of social media? And then finally, what should be done to limit the effects of fake news, if anything? Under abortion, you could explain the overturned Roe versus Wade decision. What did it actually say? What were arguments for and against it, including your own opinion? Explain what you think the United States policy on abortion should be, or answer this impossible to answer question: when does a fetus become a person? Okay. Under drug policy, was the just say no policy effective? Why or why not? What should the policy of the United States be on our drug use? So those are broad, but they're what most of the issues about. Under undocumented immigration, what is the current policy, United States policy on immigration? Is it effective or not? Current, I guess, means after Trump. And so I don't know what it is, but you would have to find out and define it yourself. And is it effective or not? You would have to determine that yourself. What are the what advantages and or disadvantages do undocumented immigrants bring to the United States? What should and this is the broadest one, what should the U.S. immigration policy be? So all these are related, but the idea is you focus on one. For college education, is college worth the time and expense for most United States young adults? I don't like that. It says most young adults in the United States would be better. Explain and evaluate the community college system. What should, what is and should be the role of technical colleges in the United States? So though, so the idea is you pick one of those, and that's sort of to provide a focus for your research as you go on. And let me see. Okay, let me go back to that. Okay, so this is like a first step for the process of starting your research. This little assignment called Finding Research Sources. It says it's due by Wednesday, so try to, but don't worry about it. Just do it when you can. Um, the idea is you first go to the library website. This link didn't work before, but now it does. On the library website, there used to be tutorials on the first page, but there aren't anymore. I wonder why not. Maybe click faculty. No, not faculty. I wonder why. No, these are not tutorials we want. Yeah, I don't want that. Sorry. Okay, well, let me come back to that. I'll go back to the library just again. Okay, so we're going to skip the tutorials and we're going to go to databases A to Z. That's where I want you to get, but I do want you to watch the tutorial so they can help you with this. I guess I'm going to have to do this more complete. Uh, so the main database that I want you to use is this Academic Search Complete. It's the second database by alphabetical order on on this page from the library. It's the biggest database for academic resources, and it's the one I want you to use. If you're not on campus, you might have to log into the library. You just put your email address and click submit query and hope that the library wakes up. There it is. And we're searching academic search complete. So say that we want to find sources about abortion. We put abortion in as our first topic, and we could click search when we want to. But if I click search now, do you know how many sources I would get? Probably 100,000. So that's not what we want. So I'm going to try to limit it. Obviously, like United States. And maybe click Roe v. Wade. Or Roe v. Wade overturned, whatever. Okay, but so now if I search it, I'll see what I get. And still, that's obviously far too much. 1,730. So there are other limiting tools. If filters, let's see, filters. We want full text. Say we want peer reviewed. That would be like scholarly journals, but most of them are scholarly journals anyway. But under publication date, let's see what I got. Let's say the past 5 years. That should lower it some. Source types. Say we don't want newspapers, so I can click magazines, academic journals, book review. Well, I mean, not obviously, but we just want English, right? For our, I mean, we could have other languages, but in this case, we'll say we just want English. Okay, so now that's a lot better. I've gone down to 183. It's still a lot, but it's something we can at least start scrolling through it. And the idea is that you look for ones that you think match your interest. Say if you're like defining Roe versus Wade, you might look at the first one. Implications of overturning Roe versus Wade on abortion training in U.S. family medicine residency program. So if you access it now, it's PDF. Sometimes PDF is good because it comes out like an article. And there it is. So you can read that. They've they've changed the they've changed the format somewhat of how these are. This is a list of tools or a toolbar, and on it, the one with the quotation marks is for how to cite the source. So that's a useful tool. I mean, I like you to get practice by citing it yourself, but if it's already done for you, it could be easier. So the idea is you want MLA 9. So you scroll down, MLA 9th edition, you click that, And then there's your works cited list. These are generally correct. You have to proofread it, check it against what you should know from the template, but you could you could just copy that and paste it. The idea is to paste it on a blank page that you'll then use as your works cited list, and you'll keep adding all your citations there as you acquire more of them. So, where am I? Going to go back to the assignment because I don't. Yes, and so with this, you can also like email this to yourself. You can save it. So the idea is you get your list of sources and you get it so that you can get back to the sources and you don't read them. In other words, don't read your sources when you're looking for them. Read them after you think you've got a good number, and then start going to. And the idea also is try to get more sources than you need because it's easier to eliminate a source than to go back and start over. I learned, and I agree, that a basic principle of research is try not to go through the same steps twice. You will have to, but try not to. In other words, try to find all your sources, try to read all your sources, taking notes of them, try to organize them, and so on. Then start trying to make a draft and so on. Don't get to the third step and then say, well, I need two more sources, or this source is no good. You want to know that before you get that far. Okay, so I know I'm going on and on, so I'm going to try to bring this to an end. Go back to the assignment. So, like I said, I don't see that you can do the tutorials, but I'll try to figure it out. And I'll try to let you know if I do. Okay, so, but I talked about finding academic search complete. So that's what you're looking for. And on that, you're looking to start finding sources. So within a couple weeks, 3, you should have a list of 10 sources and the preliminary thesis statement for your research essay. When you find the sources, save them all of the core elements so you can cite them and find them again when you need to. Save them by copying and posting them to a list, which will become your works cited page as you proceed. We'll also be starting on essay number 3, which requires research sources. So some of them will be that you use also. Back to the citation, you can use the citations that the database like Academic Search Complete gives you. But either way, you have to have correct works cited listings. And for credit for this assignment, submit the MLA listings of 2 sources that you find on Academic Search Complete and that relate to your research question. Include all the core elements, author, title, first container, information, etc. As I said, you may get the citation from the database. That's the easier way, or you can put it all together yourself. That's the harder way, but the more instructional way. And we'll go to the last page of Module 4. This is not like 2 weeks ago when there was a discussion for reporting your Writing Center work. This is just an assignment, so this is just to me, not to the other class members. But it says write a short narrative about anything you did in the Writing Center, either in person or online, during week 3 and week 4 of the class. Include having DLAs checked, using computers, exploring the website, or any other work. Explain how what you did met the requirements of 50 minutes a week. So I say waiting on for a conference for 50 minutes is all you need to do, or having the conference is all you need to do, or waiting on the conference for 30 minutes is you count that. So that easily adds up to 50 minutes. But also, as it says, look at stuff, explore the database, explore the writing center class. Just look around it, and just put in 50 minutes a week is not very much. So that's what you need to do. And so that brings this all to an end, I think. So I'm going to stop the screen share, stop the meeting also. So thank you very much and goodbye.